The words agnostic and atheist are often misused, with people using the word agnostic as if it means not quite an atheist. This is not the case. Most, if not all, atheists are also agnostics. In fact, most theists are also probably agnostic. Agnostic means not Gnostic, and agnostic, as the word applies to theistic belief, is one who is certain that his or her position on theism is demonstrable. Consequently, one can be an agnostic theist or a Gnostic theist. Also, in theory, one can be agnostic or Gnostic in atheism as well. However, few people take the full-on Gnostic position in atheism. This is primarily because Gnostic atheism is the conviction that one can know for certain that there is no God or gods. Scientifically speaking, one cannot know a negative proposition with certainty because one cannot test negative propositions, only positive ones. This is why scientists use the word theory to refer to everything from global warming to gravity. In fact, it is this inability to prove a negative that most global warming deniers and theists cling to when supporting their positions. Science cannot prove that global warming could not have a source other than human cause. Neither can science prove that no entity which could be called God might exist. What science can do, however, is demonstrate that human activity is the most reasonable and likely cause of global climate change, and that specific claims for the existence of God are not scientifically possible. This brings us to the distinction between weak and strong atheism. Because Gnostic atheism is not scientifically viable, and because claims of gnosis in the non-existence of deities are not reasonable, scientifically speaking, all atheism is agnostic by default. However, it may still be possible to hold that belief in deities is so unreasonable as to be unsound. Or it may be possible to hold that belief in deities is reasonable enough to be sound, but that the likelihood is so negligible as to be untenable to a given individual. While both positions would be atheistic and agnostic, the position that belief is sound is weaker atheism than one which holds that belief is unsound. I consider myself a strong atheist because I hold that belief in deities is unreasonable and unsound. And I submit that I can support my position almost to the point that it makes Gnostic atheism a viable position. Now, to begin, we need to acknowledge that there are literally dozens upon dozens of arguments for the existence of God, and to support a position of strong atheism, one must dispel all of them as unreasonable. However, even this is not enough to support strong atheism, as it will always be necessary to acknowledge that one cannot disprove the existence of God, so something which somebody could call God might still exist even if every argument for his existence has been debunked. Consequently, what is needed is an argument that the belief in the existence of something which could be called God is unreasonable given the untenability of all arguments for God's existence, plus one more factor. It is this one extra factor that is the basis for my argument. So for now, we can set aside arguments about the nature of God. It does not matter whether when we speak of God we mean an entity that is omnibenevolent, or omnipresent, or omniscient, or all-loving, or whether God is or is not a trinity, or whether he is manifested through revelation or miracles, or whether he exists inside of time and space or outside of time and space, or any of another number of other specific and non-specific arguments for the existence of something which could be called God. Even if we assume that all unique arguments for the existence of God have been analyzed and proven wanting, and I believe they have, it would still be necessary to demonstrate that belief in something which could be called God despite the lack of evidence is unreasonable and unsound. Well, for me, the thing which makes all believe that there could still be something which we could call God, even if all God claims are debunked unreasonable beliefs, is the simple non-necessity of such a God. Once it is demonstrated that an omnipresent God, that an omnibenevolent God, that an omniscient God, that an all-loving God cannot exist, that the Trinity postulate is nonsense, once it is shown that God cannot exist outside of time and space, nor can he exist inside of time and space, and once all of the teleological, ontological, cosmological, and experiential arguments for God have been utterly laid to waste, then the very idea of God becomes meaningless. If you believe in something that I consider meaningless and unnecessary, then I am going to consider your belief unsound and unreasonable. Moreover, it doesn't matter to me whether you are ignorant of the arguments against your belief or not. I know them and I consider them reasonable arguments. Consequently, you may consider your belief reasonable, and I may allow you to go on with that opinion unmolested, but that doesn't mean I have to respect the opinion, nor do I have to consider it reasonable unto itself. If the things you believe in prove to be unreasonable, whether you know the arguments for their unreasonableness or not, then your belief is unreasonable. For all reasonable intents and purposes, something which has no reasonable support as existing does not exist. Ergo, strong atheism is a reasonable position, and Gnostic atheism is logically, if not scientifically, viable. Thank you.